NFL teams are built in the draft, and with it coming in just a few days, I wanted to discuss my favorite fits for the Seahawks. These are not the best players at each position, but these are simply the best fits for the Seahawks, both in terms of scheme and in terms of where this roster is right now. So let's jump in, starting with quarterback, which I know a lot of you are going to hate. I understand that there are real concerns about his accuracy and his processing. I'm not here denying any of those. It's pretty bad. But when thinking about who would fit best for the Seahawks roster, I want a guy with tremendous upside. I'm not taking a Shedeur Sanders type of player because the Seahawks already have Darnold. They don't need a good quarterback. I think they already have that. What they need is they need to take a swing on a guy who could be an elite quarterback. And that is Jalen Milroe. He is an unbelievable runner with speed and vision, and he has a truly great arm. What you need to do is you need to build up his processing and his throwing mechanics from the ground up. I completely get that, but luckily for the Seahawks, they have time to do that because they have Darnold. I have a second round grade on Milroe, and I think if the Hawks do end up taking a quarterback in this class, he's my favorite guy. Develop him for a couple of years, and then we can see if they hit on this lottery ticket. To be very clear, I don't think the Seahawks should take a running back on day 1 or on day 2. I think most Hawks fans are on the same page. The positional importance isn't there, and they already have a pair of second-round running backs on the roster. So I'm not just picking the best wide zone running back. I'm looking for a running back that should go on day 3 and might add a little bit of juice to the offense. And that is Trevor Etienne. He really does have breakaway speed, and he's a versatile player in the receiving game as well. There's really not anything that I would say he's remarkable at, but if you take this guy in the 5th round, you can count on him to be a solid backup if K9 or Charbonnet get injured. To me, that's really the Seahawks' only need at running back, and I think that Etienne could fill that role easily. I've talked about this player a lot, and it's because I think he would be a perfect fit in Seattle. JSN is an excellent route runner who can threaten defenses at all levels. When thinking about the complementary skill sets that the Seahawks still need from their receiver core, I'm looking for a deep threat, probably another gadget guy to take some jet sweeps and bubble screens, and a player who can win on the outside. Kyle Williams fits all of those skill sets. His speed is real, and that makes him a true deep threat, but he also has the quickness and dynamism with the ball in his hands to be a gadget receiver. And on top of all of that, his releases are excellent, and that allows him to play on the outside. There is a lot of Tyler Lockett or Doug Baldwin in his game. Now, both of those guys were dominant at the catch point, and I don't think that Williams is quite there, but to me, he's going to be another undersized wide receiver who won't be relegated to the slot, but can actually win on the outside. I have a second round grade on Kyle Williams. This offense is going to focus on 2 receivers. You're going to need to have 2 versatile skill sets on both of those spots, and I think Kyle Williams can be the perfect complement to JSN. There's a lot of guys that I could have chosen for this spot, and Charles Grant is by no means the best player. There's a lot of perfect scheme fits who are day 1 starters, and yes, that is what the Seahawks desperately need, but Charles Grant might have one of the highest ceilings in this system. Grant is a truly unbelievable athlete. Instead of doing a traditional bucket step and using proper footwork on his reach blocks, there's some plays where he just shuffles around to make the block. And yes, that needs to be changed because that footwork just won't function at the NFL level, but also just the amount of explosiveness from this player is exciting. The fact that his footwork was so unrefined, but he still easily made all of these reach blocks just shows how exceptional of an athlete this guy really is. Now, he does have anchor concerns. He comes in at only 311 pounds, and whether he sticks at tackle or you kick him inside to guard, he does need to add some functional play strength. But this isn't a guy that I want to start for at least a couple of years. Get him in the building, revamp his footwork, let him add strength, and then maybe in 2027, you give him a shot at tackle or guard. He's a really fascinating player who I have a 3rd round grade on as a draft and stash type prospect with a sky-high upside in this scheme. This is a player that I just don't really know what to do with, but I would be really interested to watch what Kubiak would do. Fannin is an undersized tight end at just 6'3", 241 pounds, and that is what makes him a tough evaluation. He doesn't really have the speed to be a wide receiver, but he doesn't have the size to play true tight end. That will take him off of some teams' boards, but I think that might make him a perfect fit for Kubiak. The role that I would envision for him is really broad. I think he could be a fullback, he could be an off-ball tight end, and he could be a receiver on some plays as well. You're going to have to get creative with how you use him, but he is a pretty good athlete, and that is what allowed him to be the most productive pass catcher in college football last year. I have a 2nd to 3rd round grade on Fannin, which is approximately where consensus is on this guy right now, and it's because I have no idea how he's going to be used. If the Seahawks take him and Kubiak has a plan for him and is ready to make him the focal point of this offense, then he could be an amazing player and the perfect fit in this scheme. But you do need to build around this guy, and if the Seahawks just have a different vision for this offense, then I can't blame them. Still, this is a guy to watch for the Seahawks because I think Kubiak could use him in so many creative ways. We're going to flip it over to defense in just a second, but I did want to let you all know if you want tons more content on these players before the draft, go check out the Legion of 12's Patreon. We have over 65 prospect write-ups over there, and we've taken a look at the film of 19 different players in the film Mock Draft and Prospect Profile series. A new mock draft just dropped today on the Patreon, so go check that out. I appreciate your support. All right, let's talk defense. Shemar Stewart is one of the most controversial players on this list, and for good reason. Physically, he is unbelievable. At 267 pounds, he ranks in the 90th percentile for edge rushers in his broad jump, his vertical jump, his 40-yard dash, his 10-yard split, and in wingspan. He is truly one of the best athletes we have ever seen at this position. But he only had 4.5 sacks on his 680 career pass rush snaps in college. That is terrible. But I think for Mike Macdonald, he won't really mind. Stewart has been a disruptive player who got a lot of pressures in college, but he just failed to finish the play and land sacks. He wasn't unproductive, he just didn't get those sacks. But even if Stewart can't learn how to finish plays, there's still a lot that Macdonald can use. His run defense is excellent with that frame, and that is going to get him some playing time at least. But on the pass rushing down, Stewart is still disruptive. Using him on stunts and loops with his tremendous power is exciting. Even if he's not the one that gets the sack, he's still a perfect player to create plays for others. There's been a lot of talk about how this guy is boom or bust, and I just don't really see it that way. I think he's going to be a good run defender at the NFL level, and he has the power that you need to be disruptive. I think that his floor is pretty decent, and he'd still be a contributor, and if he hits, you'll have a truly elite pass rusher. To me, that is still a missing piece from this defense, and Shemar Stewart might be able to fill it. Tyleik Williams is the perfect nose tackle for Mike Macdonald. He is big at 334 pounds, and he anchors down well against the run. But it's what he does when he's two-gapping that really made me fall in love with this player. Offenses would try to block him one-on-one, and he would show great instincts and feel for where the ball is going, and consistently shed his blocker to go make the play. This was the kind of guy that college offenses just had to run away from, because you couldn't move him as much as you would like to with a double team, and he would discard any blocker that would take him one-on-one. Plus, Williams still has the quickness to kick out to 3 technique, so when the Seahawks are in their 4-down fronts and they need to flip their front, he can still do all of that. I don't ever think he'll be more than a decent pocket pusher when he's rushing the passer, but as a complete and versatile run defender, that is the last missing piece for the Seahawks interior defensive line. Yes, there are some guys that you could get later, but Tyleik Williams is really a cut above the rest, and I think he would be an excellent selection. This is the first guy that I watched and was just obsessed with how he plays football. Against the run, he is extremely quick to diagnose where he needs to be and twitchy to get there. He consistently beats blockers to the spot, and he was able to rack up tackles that way. His blend of processing and athleticism give him a wildly high upside as a linebacker. He will still need to develop his coverage instincts. He has the athleticism for it, but just didn't do it that much. And he will need to improve his ability to take on blocks. But this guy really was the Ernest Jones for South Carolina's defense. He was the leader, an essential communicator, and an extremely cerebral player while defending the run. I have a second round grade on Knight. Even though linebacker isn't a huge need for the Seahawks, having too many in that room is a much better problem than not having enough, and I think that Demetrius Knight can immediately compete with Tyrese Knight for a starting role. But honestly, he's just a player that I love to watch, and I just want to see him in Seattle. Revel is another player who I just think looks like a Seahawk. He came up through JUCO, made the team after a tryout at Eastern Carolina, and then put himself on the map after an excellent 2023. In 2024, he unfortunately got injured after just a few games, but I think that he was poised to have a great season as well. Revel is a long, physical corner who loves to hit. That is just what Mike Macdonald looks for. Now, his technique is highly underdeveloped, and he needs to become more consistent in his press man coverage, as well as developing some zone instincts. There's a long way to go before this guy reaches his upside, but that upside is immense. If the Seahawks could get Revel in the second round, I think that he would be an excellent selection. Instantly slotting in as that number 3 corner, Revel would elevate the secondary tremendously and allow Witherspoon to play from the slot more often. This is a guy that I would really like to see with the Seahawks. We'll just see if he can make it to the second round. For our last player that we're looking at today, this is another one of my favorite players to watch in this draft. Kevin Winston Jr. is an aggressive and explosive safety. Although he's not massive for a safety, he is violent and he plays above his frame. Right now, he's not the most instinctive coverage safety, but I think this guy could be the perfect Rayshawn Jenkins replacement. Now, I wouldn't want him to be the starter day one and take up one of those full-time safety spots because he simply makes too many mistakes to be trusted with that position. As a third safety, his aggressiveness and downhill tackling will be put on full display. I have a third round grade on Kevin Winston Jr. He can be an impact as a third safety early in his career, and then you can see if he can develop into anything more than that. That is all the players that was on my list, but I hope that you enjoyed. I'm really excited about this draft and it's only a few days away. Go check out the Patreon for more of my thoughts on these players. I appreciate your support and go Hawks.